On the Y3 podcast, always brought to you by right here in Modern Party Art on 268 Bowden Street. You can go to them for all your art entertainment needs. They do paint and sips. They rent out their venue for parties, birthday parties. They do all type of events here. They just started doing, I believe every Wednesday, they started doing open mic night. So if you're interested in that, they do comedy nights, I think like the first Friday of every month. I might be wrong on these dates, so you gotta go to modernpartyart.com and you can double check that. But anything you need from them, tell them you was sent by DJ, they'll take care of you. That being said, we're gonna bring it in here. I got Jeremy here, owner of Little Liberty. Owner of Little Liberty. And I'm gonna let him introduce himself, get into what Little Liberty is, what they do. I'm gonna pass you the floor, bro.
Right, I'll take it.
So I know we've been trying to get you here for a minute. You was on, I believe, episode might have been like 7 with Mingos and Father Jacob. And I've been seeing you've been in an affair with them too.
You already know.
So that's dope. But yeah, I'll pass you the floor, man. I'll let you introduce what Little Liberty is.
But yeah, definitely. Before I even start, thank you for hosting this conversation, for having me on. And shout out to Modern Party for hosting this discussion. Most definitely, always grateful to everybody that supports, and I'm always willing to give that support back. But as far as like Little Liberty is concerned, this really is a financial consultancy that is both poverty and trauma informed. And what I mean by that is that we take into account a lot of different struggles that people have, because I understand that there's no one size fits all when it comes to financial literacy and advocacy, I'm not going to sit here and talk about, budgeting to someone who doesn't have an income, right? So it's always considering those different things that might be going on in someone's life. I'm not going to send them to an organization that they may have had a bad experience with. I'm always willing to work with somebody, where they're at. It's really my philosophy is, compassionate, compassion, integrity, and service. Those are my 3 main tenets in my business. That's what I stick by, and that's what
Word. So what exact services does Little Liberty offer to somebody?
Yeah, so if you are an individual seeking services, what I do offer is financial planning services, career readiness services, and credit advocacy services. So what that all kind of means on the credit advocacy side, it means obviously going in, helping folks fix the report, but I do what other credit repair agencies won't do. Like I'll educate you as I'm fixing what's going on, right? So that
That's
you know.
Interesting. My bad to cut you off, because I've worked with a credit repair agency before to fix my credit up, and never once was I educated, right? It just was I just start your payment with this $100. We'll work on it and check back every month. That's all it was. You know what I mean? Like it was never anything informative. They didn't tell me anything. I just seen little improvements here and there. You know what I mean?
And that's what kills me, right? Because we, in our community, right, we have a lot of programs dedicated to teaching folks about their rights when it comes to stuff like the police, right? Yeah. But when it comes down to our rights in the financial spaces, we are left in the dust, right? A lot of people don't even realize that you have rights when it comes down to your credit report, when it comes down to credit, enumerated by the Fair Credit Reporting Act, right? A lot of people don't know that. It's crazy. And I go over this in my credit works, my credit 102 actually. Where I kind of just detail what your rights are under federal law and some common practices practiced by like different bureaus, right? Including but not limited to, the fact that you can do multiple hard inquiries within a 2-week time span and then they only be considered as one, right? That's just a little taste of something that's a custom.
Okay. So that being said, so when you're talking about educating you said in your credit 102 class?
Yeah.
So when you talk about educating any person that you're working with, do you work with individuals? Like what is the goal when you start working with somebody?
Most definitely. So the goal for somebody is honestly wherever they set that for themselves. Right. Say for instance, you come for me with career readiness, right? This can mean like mock interviews, preparing your resume. I actually sat, my first client for this, I had to sit down because he was an ex-con, recently, like getting out, trying to get back into the workforce. I sat down with this dude for a whole hour, only got paid $20, really sat there and created everything on his resume and held like this kind of mock interview type setting, just so that he could get into the flow of doing it again. That might, a goal from that might be, getting a job, right? Or finding or expanding yourself in your career. A goal for a credit repair or a credit advocacy client may be seeing your credit score rise above 720 when you might be at like a 550 or something like that, right? Or it could just be, your goal could just be learning more about credit, more about your rights, right? It's always different for each person, but I would say those individual services don't make up the bulk of the business. What makes up the bulk of the business would be like those strategic partnerships I try to develop with other organizations. As I'm at the development stage of the startup, I'm getting more into that idea, that mindset of partnering with different organizations, hosting these free groups to folks of like, these free focus groups with people like 10 to 15 people, teaching them these financial literacy courses, having them go back out into the community and spreading that knowledge. Because I'm a firm believer in that, and you asked me what my goal of the company was. It's really to see Black credit scores, specifically the average credit scores in Roxbury and Mattapan, Roxbury and Dorchester rise, Roxbury, Mattapan and Dorchester rise to at least 700 by 2030. And also see the Black median net worth in Boston rise to 20,000 by 2030. Because as it stands right now, the Black median net worth in Boston is only $8, right?
Dope, yeah.
But
that's dope, that's dope. So we're gonna kind of dive in. We'll drop. I want you to drop some nuggets. We'll dive in some questions I have, both from viewers and from the show, of course. So the first question here, pretty. Let's get the feet wet question here. What is credit and why is it important?
Oh man, that's a good one. There's a bunch of reasons why credit is important, but credit, honestly, it can be described as whatever you borrow, right? That's really the bulk of credit, right? It's just your borrowing power. Why it's important is because credit can limit what kind of jobs you get, what kind of housing you get access to, what interest rates you get access to, what different programming you get access to, right? I know the FHA loan requirements may have changed during the pandemic, may have gotten a little more lenient, but I do know circa early 2020, before the pandemic, to get an FHA loan with like 3.5% down on a home, as a first-time home buyer, you had to have a credit score of at least 720, right? Now, if you had at least 660 but not a 720, that number would be 10% down, right? It's a huge difference. Like that 6.5% doesn't sound like a lot, but when we're talking big figures like 200,000, 500,000, 1 million, that becomes a lot of money, right? We got to start talking more percentages, right, instead of hard numbers. But that's another conversation. So what are your recommendations for someone with no credit history? What should they do today to start building that? See, that's a really good question, right? Because it's having no credit is honestly puts you in somewhat of a better situation than having bad credit. But what I would implore you to do first and foremost is get your credit report from annualcreditreport.com. Look over that, make sure there's nothing negative on there before you do anything, right? Because if you have negative stuff, you want to address that before you go open up another account. I would say after you make sure you're clear, you're good to start off, you're on the right foot, get yourself a secured card. Start building up, and borrowing against something you put down.
So what is a secured card for people that may not know?
Yeah, absolutely. So a secured card is basically a line of credit that is secured against say an asset or something like that. But say you're a bank, right? I give you $100, right? That means I have $100 in credits to borrow from each month. I have to keep paying that down from whatever I use, and that basically allows me to start building myself up. Because honestly, the credit game is a trust game. That's kind of the name of it. And if institutional lenders don't trust you, or if you have a bad track record, that'll screw you up. And a lot of us start off on a bad leg, which is why I have that recommendation of looking through your credit report first, making sure everything's okay, and then going for it.
Okay, word. So you would say your recommendation to someone with no credit to get a secured credit card?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's another one. How can I work on my credit on my own?
on your own. Same thing there, you know. Something I did leave out from the last question is the ability of authorized usership. The credit game, you don't gotta play it alone. You know what I'm saying? You could piggyback off of a friend. Y'all can have each other as under authorized user status. What that basically means is you're sharing payment history. So I have access to your card without any of the risks that you may take. So if you default on that card, it's not under my name, it's just under yours. But my name is attached to your payment history, and that gets put under my account. So that, you know, we can grow together, right? So I wouldn't.
What a lot of people don't know too is like having because to piggyback off what you just said, having a credit card, and you said you can pair with somebody, right? You can go with one of your boys that has a $10,000 credit card,
right?
And then has had that credit card for 4 years. Now, I just became an authorized user. I have 4 years of credit history, just
right
like
on
that.
your report, just like that.
$10,000 worth of, you know what I mean? Just like that, without doing anything. Without just becoming so. And this goes back to this was a podcast episode I've seen before, was getting if you have kids, right? Getting your kids. I don't know what's the age. How young can you put them as an authorized user?
Honestly, as young as you want.
Right?
As young as you want.
As young as you want.
As
right?
young as you want.
So imagine that, right? You put your kid, right? Let's, like me, I'm 26. My kid is about to be 3 next week. Put my kid on my credit card as an authorized user, right? I make responsible choices. With that being said, he's on my credit card. Now, by the time he's 18, he's done have 15 years of credit, and what in the world will be my spending limit, right?
Right.
By that time, he has all that spending, all that credit age history, just from doing nothing.
Right.
You know what I mean, just from putting him as an authorized user on my card.
And you see, like, this becomes like a community access issue, though, right? Because when you think about it, how many people do you really know that's gonna have like a long-standing history of credit that's like A1 and is really good?
Right.
And so I always like to center that conversation around there, because there are these strategies, but you know, if you don't know anybody that has good credit, if you're not really in that, it's hard, right? Or you could go through a trade line program, right? Whereas you buy authorized usership status basically, but now that's on a subscription basis, right? You got to keep up with that, and that's expensive. People charge a lot of money for some good credit history. I'll tell you that.
I didn't even know that was.
Yo, there's a whole market. There's a whole market for that. They're trying to crack down on it though, for obvious reasons, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, but specifically for someone who wants to build up their credit history on their own, honestly, if you got a car, you're already building up credit history. As far as an auto loan is concerned.
Yeah.
You know, Experian Boost got a new program out too. If you already pay your Comcast, you know, your phone bill, light bill, utilities, whatever may have you, you can put that on down, and they'll include that. A lot of people don't know that too. That you can report that. You have that reported. Exactly, but it's only through Experian, to my knowledge, because it's through one of their own programs. So it would only be like single bureau of reporting, which is still good though, you know. Right. If one bureau has it, that can lead a lender to look at what you have, say if you're going for like a lower line of credit, and it gives you a higher likelihood of being approved for some good stuff, you know. Right.
So we're gonna jump into the next one. How can I remove or have removed inquiries or other derogatory remarks on my credit?
This one's a really interesting one. So hard inquiries don't hurt people as much as they think, right? They actually stop affecting your credit score after the first year.
Really?
Yeah, they stop affecting your credit score.
I don't know why I thought it was several more years than that.
Nah, so they actually come off your credit report officially though by year 2. Okay. And this is actually enumerated as a right, as one of your rights in the Fair Credit Reporting Act, right? And this is why I stress that, you know, so I try to teach people about that, because not knowing your rights is how a lot of these companies and collections agencies get you. It's how people get stuck in that cycle of debt, not knowing these things.
So let's we got to get into that. We got to get into that. Let's get through these questions, but we got to for sure get into the rights of the Fair Credit Reports Act. But all right, so next question. This one I like because it's personal to me. Because I have had a car repoed before in my life as well. I was 18, 19 years old. Yeah. Stupid decision, bought a freaking, I don't know, $50,000 Cadillac. I put $10,000 down on it, and I bought a $50,000 Cadillac, and maybe had it for 6 months before it was repoed.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the question is, I have had my car repossessed. What are some ways I can remove a car repossession off of my credit, or any repossession off of my credit?
Absolutely. This is actually a conversation we were just having before, we started up. But I would say something to always consider. Always make sure you do this whenever you get any new line of credit or any kind of thing you borrow, right? Read through that contract. Always read through that contract and understand who you're making that contract with. Because if you have a contract with person A, right? And person A reaches out to say like person B to come handle what they're supposed to be doing in the contract, you never signed up for what person B did, right? And so to bring that closer to home, you made the deal with the car dealership, not the repossession agency. The repossession agency has no claim, no right to take your stuff, but the car dealership, if they were to take it directly, they have the right to repossess. Right, so a lot of the things that they do, they'll reach out to another agency to handle it because they don't want to handle that headache.
Right.
Because what car dealership do most folks know that's like going to handle that themselves? But what a lot of people don't realize, you didn't sign up for that. But if it is in your contract and that's how they limit you, then that's another story. And this is why I urge people to really read through these contracts that they sign, because sometimes, even going back to the whole authorized user status thing, sometimes you might be charged extra fees for having an authorized user, or whatever it may have you. So yeah, reading through your contract you can never go wrong as far as that's concerned, specifically repossessions. But you can get it removed. For instance, if in a contract you never agreed for a third-party repossession agency or third-party agency to come and execute what was on your contract.
So my question is, with the car repossession, or any type of repossession, what would be the first step as far as that would go, right? Like, so, and is there a certain amount of time that it comes off? It's like 7 years or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
So after 7 years, it comes off. The repossession comes off the credit.
Yeah.
But not what? Let's say.
So your score doesn't go back up though.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. Just because this comes off of your report doesn't mean the score is going to be completely right? Because you got to build that back up. You got to rebuild yourself.
Right.
And this is why it's so interesting.
It stops hurting it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily help it.
Right.
Okay.
So it allows you to start off from like a clean slate as far as it's gone. But getting it removed through the whole dispute process, first, if you want to, you should go to the collection agency first. Always do debt validation. So for instance, if the repo agency said, we're taking your stuff, and they said, and you now have a repossession on your credit report, reach out to the repossession agency always through authorized mail. Make sure you have a receipt that you mailed them, and always take a picture of the mail you sent, and send them the mail, basically the first debt validation letter, like, hey, I don't remember ever signing any contract with you guys. Why is this on my credit report? I was never notified of this debt, et cetera, when you first do see that, and if you were not notified. And then from there, if things aren't going, if they're not like, okay, we'll take it off or whatever, your credit report or whatever may have you, if that's not working, then you escalate a little bit. You go to the next step, which is going to reach out to the credit bureaus, right? This is not my debt. This is illegal debt. If they don't respond to you within the first 60 days of receipt of that mail, then you head straight out to the credit bureau, the credit bureaus, the credit reporting agencies, and you basically say, give them the same kind of time frame, I believe 60 days still from the date of receipt, and you basically say, hey, this is on my credit report. This is an erroneous item. And basically you would list that you never really signed a contract with these guys, and you take that down, right? Because a lot of times these collection agencies will force you to kind of go into that. And if they do say that they can prove your debt to them, to the repo agency, via whatever method, always ask how. You make sure you want to get that proof and see how they are validating your debt, right? Or validating whatever line item is on your credit report. Because oftentimes these agencies will report back to you and say that, we have validated the debt, we did X, Y, Z. But in reality, they're just saying that so that you get off their back.
Right, because you're like, oh, damn, they have it validated. All right.
It's kind of like what the police do when it comes to interrogation tactics.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, for real, damn, all right. People just take the L.
Right.
Because they're uneducated. Like, oh, damn, all right. I have to, that's validated. Oh shit, you know what I mean?
Right. And so, but when you say, all right, how? Right, how?
Right,
and then it's like, that's when they get silent. That's when the mail stops coming in. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then you go straight to the reporting agencies, and you're like, I never saw any lick of proof. Obviously, a little more professional than that. You know.
Right. No. Right.
I never saw a lick of proof, and this isn't a erroneous item on my credit report. Why is this still on?
So if someone's not confident in their ability to do that, but you would.
Absolutely.
You're someone that can help them.
Absolutely.
With that process.
That is not a pro bono service, though. I do let people know that for the credit advocacy, I do charge $50 a month, which is low, but
low,
you know, I know.
Maybe not very low. I just know I was paying $100 a month when I was.
You know, a lot of people pay a lot more, but I don't believe in overcharging people who are already struggling.
Right.
For the most part. And if you can pay more, listen. If you are willing to, then do so. I would ask you to do so, but you know, baseline $50 a month, and. With that said, you know, that comes not only with me advocating on your behalf alongside you, it is me showing you what the process looks like and educating you on a lot of various things that I'm already taking you through so that you could pay it forward. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You could take it to the next person. You could do it for yourself if you find yourself in that situation again, or you could do it for a family member, a friend, or even an acquaintance.
That's dope. I feel like that separates.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. You know, that separates you from other agencies, just because, like I said, I've personally worked with one, and it was $100 a month, and like I said before in the beginning of the show, there was no knowledge. There's no reason why I should have worked for a credit agency. Worked with an agency to help repair my credit.
Yeah.
And then you're saying things right here, and I'm like, what? For real? Like, there's no reason for that. You feel me?
You know?
When I was paying $100 a month for it, you know. So that's dope. We'll get into the next one. So which is more important, saving money or paying off my credit card bills?
You can do both at the same time, right? Now, if you've exhausted every option that you have as far as advocating on your credit report and getting everything off, or removing items, right, or at least like negotiating them down, what you can then do, right, last step, final step, consolidate all that debt into a debt consolidation loan. Basically, this is a hard money loan. It can be a hard money loan, or anything like kind of paid off any period of time. And basically what that allows you to do is take all of your accounts, pay it all off in one fell swoop, make one account, and then now you're making payments on that each time. Now, if you already have like a screwed up account in some way, shape, or form, what that allows you to do is save more consistently, right? And in the back of your head, you're not paying off different accounts, you're paying off just one. It might end up being a little more expensive as far as interest rates are concerned, but it is the best option for a lot of people. Because now on the side you get to save, but you also get to budget for that expense consistently, right? You're not dealing with multiple interest rates that are going up. You're not really wondering what's left on each account or anything like that, or what's left on what might be different cards. It makes your life a lot easier. I definitely have advised a few folks to do that. A few folks who have screwed up their credit, as far as like, you know, in the business realm, there's really nothing they can do about it after that, because it was valid debt. They kind of went through the motions already, and that's honestly probably like one of the best credit strategies there is, outside of, you know, the proactive ones that prevent that kind of stuff. But you know, when you're in that situation, that's a good way to get out. What's the
as if you're advising me right now on a let's say we're building a budget, what's the like minimum you would say I should have in a savings, as far as not necessarily like a number, but like 3 months of bills, you know?
So
what would you recommend?
Yeah, so you want to have about 3 months of your expenses saved in emergency savings. Me personally, I don't like regular bank savings accounts. I prefer, you know, in brokerage accounts like Fidelity, whatever may have you, just because interest rates are higher on that end. With a bank, you'll get less than a half of a percent in interest in a savings account in most banks. But you know, when you have your money like growing inside of an investment account or something like that, your interest rates are leagues above. And because I'm not, you know, Series 65 certified, I can't get too into that. But yeah, as far as, you know, emergency savings, 3 months is the general rule. If you can save up more, do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, always keep money to the side so that you're okay and you can survive, you know, through whatever tough time.
At what point would you recommend getting or applying for a credit card? As far as like credit score goes and like emergency funds stored away, like should I go, like let's say I have $70 to my name right now, right? Let's just say, for example, I have $70 to my name right now, but I have a 630 credit score. With $70 to my name, should I go apply for a credit card, right? Or should I?
So
go ahead.
Yeah, so
because I can go all day.
I feel you. It's definitely a hard subject to talk about because if you only have $70 to your name, most secured cards aren't going to go below 100. You know, a lot of secured cards because that's such a low borrowing account. Your credit utilization rate is going to be so high.
Right, just with $20.
Right, just $20 or even a phone bill like for $60,
yeah,
right? 60 out of a 70, like what?
Yeah.
You know, that's like a good 90%, some ballpark 90% area credit utilization. That's gonna screw up your credit score,
so
right?
What's your recommended utilization number?
Recommended 1% to 30. Okay. So what I do for my card, one of my secured cards, is I keep a 300 limit on that one, and I keep a rolling balance of $15. So I keep paying off the account, not in full. So I'll pay off the statement balance, and I pay off necessarily the account, the account balance that I have in that current month, and I keep paying it just down to $15 and letting that carry over because not using any credit. Not using any credit is just as bad as using too much credit, right? Because some agencies won't even report, you know, that you even have it still, right? So there'll be gaps in certain months, and the agency.
So
will be
my
like,
cycle's coming to an end. Should I make sure that there's a percentage that's in use, like in flow?
Yeah, I would say, you know, always, honestly, you can buy like a McDonald's meal and hit that 1%. You know, just make sure that you
just make sure it's rolling,
you know,
in use.
Exactly.
Okay. So when the statement ends, you don't want it to be zero.
Absolutely not.
$0 due. You want it to at least be $1 due.
Right, because when you don't use it, right? Because when you don't use it, you're signaling to agencies like you don't need credit, right? Like you just have it just to have it, and you know what I'm saying. So it's not, you don't want to give off that signal because now it's just like, well, it doesn't really mean much, right? Because again, not using any credit. When you think about it like a trust game, it's like, what are you really here for, right? Right. Versus when you're using too much credit, it's like you're doing too much, right?
And people will probably think like, oh, I did use it, but I paid it off before it was due. Like I paid it off, I did use it, but they don't see that. They just see what's when the statement is due. They just see that. Right. They don't see your activity, right?
Exactly. Okay. So they see it on a monthly basis, right? So they aren't looking at like the individual account activity. As say for instance, your agency is, right? Whatever creditor you went through to get your credit, they're looking at your account history and all that, the different transactions that are happening. But bureaus, when they report to bureaus aren't looking at that. They're looking at the month-to-month stuff happening because they just handle so much. It's just, we're trying to give you accurate, you know, key performance indicators of yourself, like of your own credit usage. So they're not getting too deep into it. So it does sound counterintuitive to a lot of folks when I say, yo, leave at least $15 rolling each month. Pay it off still. Pay it off. Use it again.
Use it again.
Exactly. And never use more credit than you can afford. Credit is not free money. You know what I'm saying? Which is why that $70 question got so hard, because it's like, well, if you can't really afford to use credit, then you probably shouldn't have it, right? Because credit's really, really important. Seek authorized usership status. But as far as you having your own individual credit line, that's not too good, because $70, what's that to a credit card? Well, to most credit cards. And you can't pay it off, you get stuck with that, and now there's all these negative items stuck on your bill, and your credit score is shot worse than 630, right?
Right. Now, and if I'm an authorized user on someone's card, do I have to use that card for it to affect me? No. No. So I can just be an authorized user and never even see that card. Right. And still gain the benefits of being an authorized user.
Exactly, because y'all share an account, right? And the dope part about being an authorized user is if they screw up on the account, that's not on you.
That's not on me.
That's not on your report. It's not on you. Granted, if the account closes because of its bad standing, then like that's not on you. But say there's a gap in the payment month period, that's gonna hurt that account specifically.
Right.
So it's not gonna hurt your score because your score is attached to that account. But as long as the account's in good standing, you get it back up and right. You should be all good. You know. But that's the really cool part. It's a good, as far as credit's concerned. Becoming an authorized user is one of like the best risk management strategies, honestly.
So I had a question too. I didn't write it down, but it just hit my head from an Instagram user. His question was, what is a credit referencer, like a credit reference? So like he said, he's applied for things before and it's asked him for a credit reference, and he's been like, well, I don't know what the hell a credit reference is. Yeah. You know, so what's a credit reference, and where can someone get something like a credit reference? Right.
So a credit reference could be someone else who has decent credit, who can help like be a co-signer, or at least say like, you know, this person's good, or it can be another account or other things that you have. So that person might not have had any active credit lines, right? Or anything like, or even any credit history at all.
Okay.
So that could have been what they were referring to as far as credit references. You know, I haven't really heard that term too much. So immediately what comes to mind again is not having credit history to look at for reference.
Right.
Or it could be, you know, not having a person to co-sign a loan or something like that.
Okay. And then next question is, I mean, I could throw these at you all day, but let's just say I have a $500 credit card, right? Or let's say I have $1,000, just to make math easy. I have a $1,000 credit card. What is your recommendation, the perfect way to use a credit card with $1,000? Because if I have a $1,000 credit card, that doesn't mean I have $1,000 to spend. Right. So what's your recommendation on how to use a $1,000 credit card?
Bills. You know what I'm saying? Expenses that you already know are coming up. Put that down, you know what I'm saying, and then pay it off with regular money. So now not only are you getting paid, like not paid, but not only are you building credit history while you're paying off regular bills, it's already expected expenses that are already coming off, just consolidated into one card. Right. You know, it's just, you're not thinking about different bills and different accounts. It all goes to one card. You just pay that card off at the end of the month.
It's not a bad thing if I max my credit card out, as long as it's down to 30% or under by the time the statement closes.
Yeah, by the time your due date, your payment due date is in, if that better be paid down if you max out your card.
Is there a gap or something like that between the payment due date and then the reporting date? Isn't there like some type of like?
Yes, but by the payment due date is when that reporting date closes, but then your statement won't show up for like a week until after, right?
Okay.
And that'll be whatever's still left on the account or the card from that payment due date is going to show up inside of the statement balance. And the statement balance is what gets reported to the credit bureaus. But you know, if it's not paid by the payment due date, you can't really fix that. You know.
So pretty much that's. I'll leave it at that for the credit. I do want to ask about Little Liberty again, though. With Little, when did you start it? Where do you go to school at?
Yeah, I go to school at Northeastern University.
Okay, so you're still going there now?
Yeah. Wow. So I'm a third year studying finance and accounting management at Northeastern. But yeah, you know.
That's dope. And then when did you start Little Liberty?
Yeah, I started Little Liberty just about late 2019. Late 2019. At least I started the idea, not the actual vehicle that it's becoming now.
That is becoming the word.
You know? And I would say late 2019, early 2020s was honestly all development. That was all me making sure that, you know, everything I was offering made sense. Everything, because I'll tell you something about this credit stuff. This credit stuff wasn't originally, it was not always originally, you know, credit advocacy and stuff. It was gonna be split between credit repair and just credit repair, like most agencies do, for $500 a month, right? And then it was gonna be, you know, some of the credit strategy on the side, also teaching people and strategizing with them how to best use their credit cards. for about, say, $15 a month, which is low because I wanted to give that service out to other people. But then I realized it's the same people who would utilize that service that would need credit repair. And so that created a dilemma, right? Because now it's kind of predatory, right? I'm charging you $15 a month, which is more affordable, but to actually help you do that work, I'm now charging you $500 a month. It's crazy. And I had to really think back to myself and what I wanted this business to be. And I'm not out here to be predatory. I'm not out here to, destroy people's budgets, because I'm trying to help build the community out here, you know? And I think that is lost on a lot of our entrepreneurs out here, as far as community building goes and our involvement in our communities, but that is definitely something that we need to get on as far as people in the community goes, you know? Right.
There's not much. Have you thought about maybe doing you said you have your, what is it, a 102 course?
Yeah.
Is that something you actually teach to people? Like, is that a course that's available on Little Liberty or?
Yeah, so I have a Facebook group called The Little Nation, and oftentimes I'll offer like these courses just for free. Just come in, learn, and tune in. That's all I ask of people. For stuff that would require me to have a license, like for instance, investing workshops, whatever may have you, that is general information presented. For legal reasons, I have to make that disclaimer, because I do not have my Series 65 license, but that is definitely something I am working on. Same thing if I ever do any courses on, say, tax law, right? Disclaimer, I am not a certified CPA yet. Those are two things that are in the works though.
Okay, dope.
So hopefully by, say, 2023, I'll be able to actually talk about investment strategies and a whole bunch of other, like, wealth building vehicles with the community later on. But yeah.
Dope. So, but as far as the credit repair stuff goes, you can talk about that and you can give advice on that.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay. So things like credit repair, career readiness, entrepreneurship, and I can still talk about the other stuff, right? It comes with that disclaimer,
Right.
And it's never going to be too specific, right? Like, I can't give you specific investment advice or whatever may have you. If I have a stock that's winning for me, then I'll be like, hey, look at this. I'm doing good here. And I'll kind of go through my thought process with buying that stock, but I will never say you should buy XYZ, or this is something that you have to get into, yada yada, because what a lot of people don't realize is that advice can be illegal. And I was, there were times I would do that informally, and I realized, like, when it comes to business, you got to really be on it, insofar as like where you. Because the legal environment of this stuff gets real muddy, especially in the financial spaces and when you want to get into business. But yeah.
Right. So let's get into entrepreneurship.
Most stuff.
So with entrepreneurship, how can one? So a lot of people don't know that entrepreneurship, right, and actually having a business, right, you can have business credit that it can allow you to do the same things that a personal credit can allow you to do.
Absolutely.
But there's steps to be taken before you can just, you don't just open a business, have a business credit. It's the same thing as having no credit, right? As a person. So I just wanted you to get into the benefits or cons, right, of being an entrepreneur and actually owning an actual business.
Yeah. So business credit is definitely something that I take seriously, especially as someone getting into that space as well.
Right.
Business credit it's a whole different environment, right? You have to get it goes into virtually it's not just one bureau, right? Because you have the Better Business Bureau that's looking at you, and that affects your business credit. Dun & Bradstreet is probably the major player when it comes to that. It's probably, when we look at the three different credit bureaus, Dun & Bradstreet would be like the supreme, and then you just look into it, because business credit isn't just about the loans that you can receive, right? It also is your credibility within your community, your credibility as a business. So a lot of these review websites can help you get that together. As far as what it can do for you, right? When you have access to higher amounts of capital, to leverage, and for folks who may be confused, it's like what the word leverage means in a business environment. They call credit leverage when we're talking about businesses, or honestly, really anything, because you're leveraging debt. You know, you're getting yourself into debt for the purpose of making money, right? Like, say you wanted to buy like a shop, you don't have that money. You don't have like say $50,000 on hand, but you might have really good personal credit, and that's going to end up being attached to your business. And you might go in and the bank might give you a loan for $50K. Again, this is a very, very streamlined process. This is not what real life looks like, but say the bank gives you a loan for $50K. Now you're in debt to the bank, say $50K plus interest, but you're now leveraging that $50K to get the space you want and create income so that you can pay off that debt, and create cash flow for you and yourself and your business, you know. And that's why we use the word leverage, because you kind of use the debt to get a leg up on the debt, you know. But yeah,
word. So now with entrepreneurship, I don't know how versed you are in the LLC world, the C corp, the S corp.
Yeah.
But like you said earlier, because I was actually gonna talk about like the potential tax benefits, right, in them, right? There's no tax benefits in them if you don't work it, right? You know what I mean? But people just think, oh, LLC, you know, I got these tax benefits.
A lot of people like to shout out LLC like it's just this magical thing. It's more of a legal a lot of these business structures are more of legal things than they are tax things. Right. And I only say a lot because honestly, it's only like 2 or 3 that provide, you know, legal, tax benefits, right? Say you're a sole proprietor, right? This just means you're running the business as either yourself or you have a doing business as form, a DBA form, as your business name, right? So say, you know, Modern Party Art was honestly just Sammy and no business entity was attached to that. It was just her and her personal account and whatever may have you. That would be a sole proprietorship. But when you get into the LLC world, now we're talking about limited liability companies, and what this does essentially is it separates you from the business and the business from you, but it doesn't make the business its own individual person. It doesn't give person into a business. It just separates assets, right? Assets and liabilities. So anything that's on the business isn't now also my problem, right? So if the business gets sued, they're coming for the business's assets, not like my house or, you know, my car or whatever kind of assets, whatever other assets I may have, or even my brokerage accounts. So that's the benefit of like an LLC. But then you have 2 different types of LLCs. You have your single member LLCs and then your partnerships. LLCs can either be taxed as partnerships, or the single member LLCs can be taxed as LLCs can be taxed as partnerships, or I believe they can elect to be taxed as corporations, but don't quote me on that. But as far as single member LLCs are concerned, they can elect to be taxed as either a sole, an S corp, which is basically a single member corporation. And that allows, the benefit of that basically is if you want like your money to go directly to you, if you plan on taking a lot of money from your business, not really reinvesting into the business, that might be a good strategy for you, especially if there's a lot of money flowing through the business, because that allows for more write-off opportunities. But, you know, or you could be taxed as a sole proprietorship within a single member LLC, right? Whereas you're a member, and you know your distribution, because when you're a member of an LLC, you don't get paid, like you're not hired by the business. You get paid in distributions, and so it's the distributions that are taxed, and those are what get played around with. So in a single member LLC, the single member would be, you know, treated as like anybody else running their own business. We would still have to file Schedule C forms. There's a lot to this, man. And then I'm just really trying to get my mind together on it. But so Schedule C forms, I don't know why my mind's drawing a blank right now as far as LLC is concerned. But a single member LLC, yeah, right, you still have to you still have to file your Schedule C forms like anybody in sole proprietorship would. But the difference I would say that you have is that you can still hire people, right, as an LLC. Now, if you have employees, right, in your LLC, this is where my mind was going, is that you can pay your employees, right? And you can still get the regular tax, get whatever documents you need to onboard them and still, pay off their taxes or whatever have you, give them, their W-2s and that stuff. That can still be done as, an LLC. As a sole proprietorship, it gets a little bit weirder to do that because you can't really attach people to just one name, but you can hire contractors, basically. That's what people would be if you were working as a sole proprietorship. Or you could give them W-2s, but that gets muggy. You would have to get them like an EIN for your business as well. An employment identification number for folks who are watching who may not know what that is. And that basically is like your business's social security number. But then again, get into the corporation side. Corporations now allow a business to be treated as like their own human, right? They're literally their own entity and they have their own rights. Those to get a corporation, you have to get your bylaws together, your, not articles of organization, your articles of incorporation, and you have to obviously get your meeting minutes together, make sure that you have all and there's a few other forms I know to file a corporation. My mind's drawn a little bit of blanks because it's honestly been a while since I read up on how to file a corporation and read up on that environment of business. But yeah, there's so many different ways to go about starting a business, operating it. What I always would tell somebody is consult like a legal professional to understand what might be your best option for your goals and what you want to get out of running a business, right?
And you can always change over, even if you start as an LLC.
Mm-hmm. So starting as an LLC is good because you can switch over into corporation status. It takes a little bit more work, but you can always do that. But dissolving once you're in corporation status, dissolving that and switching over is a whole nother ball game. So what most people should do, or what's best for most people find best is, starting off as a sole proprietor, just being yourself in business, because from there you can go in any direction, right?
Right.
And you're not really bogged down by the legal stuff. And all the other things that go into business. For me, I found that having a single member LLC works best for me. I own 51% of my company, and because I also plan to sell off pieces pieces of the company so I can get more funding. And in that, I would switch over to a regular LLC, like a regular partnership. Because those who would now invest become limited partners. Ooh, I'm sorry. But it gets real mind-boggling, especially in this kind of environment. But I'm just gonna talk about what I feel like works for me, best for me.
Okay, yeah.
To see if that might make things a little bit more digestible. So for me, being a single member LLC allows me to own 51%, but also if I want to in the future, I can add on other limited partners just for funding. And what that allows me to do is reinvest money into the business and get more opportunities for, say, write-offs, right, on stuff that on the assets the business owns. This includes like cash on hand, and other liabilities a business might have to pay off and other things, because LLCs, my mind's still drawing blanks, but as far as what LLCs are able to do with saved money, they have a lot more legal leeway than, say, corporations do with money saved, because corporations get, taxed twice on income, both on dividends and earned income for the business. So that gets a little bit harder to save money as a corporation. LLCs don't face double taxation. So those are really good, and sole proprietors get taxed, honestly, some of the most, because you don't have access to as many tax write-offs as, say, an LLC or a corporation would.
Yeah, like this guy I was watching, you might know who he is. I think it's like Prince Donnell or something like that on YouTube.
I know what you're talking about.
I think that's his name. It's Prince something. But nonetheless, he was talking about at what point should you go LLC to corporation. Mm-hmm. He actually is the owner of, he has a tax company.
Jumpin' Jack Taxes?
Jumpin' Jack Taxes,
yep.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked about the same guy. He's saying that at about $50,000 gross in profit, right, should be the only time you should be looking to go into a corporation, right? That's what he was saying. So once your company is grossing 50 grand in profit, that's when you should look into going corporation if you're an LLC, right? Because this was back before when I was looking into opening my company, D&D Vending Solutions, and I wasn't sure. I was like going hard on like what I should do, whether it should be LLC, C Corp, S Corp, and I basically had got that nugget from him. Speaking of nuggets, right? This was something I forgot to ask you earlier. But now that's in my head, I want to ask you. If in the credit world, right? In the credit world, whether it be business credit, personal credit, in your world, what is your top 3 like golden nuggets for people that like something they may not know that's very good information, something that we will be is just your big booms? Like, what's your top 3?
Keep track. Well, number 1, keep track of rewards points and other like rewards earned on your credit cards, because those can save you some money. Honestly, those can help you make money actually, compared to what you might be using on a credit card, which you might be paying off. Because right, if you have like, for instance, 5% cash back in gas, right, and you say use about 15%. Let's say you use like 300 in gas per month. Let's say you drive a lot. But your overall credit limit might be like looking like 2,000 or something like that, so that's not too much used. And your rewards points might be struck, 5% cash back. 5% cash back, you spend about 300 every month. So, 5% of 300, we're looking at $15 cash back. You're making $15 every single time you get gas with that credit card, right? Or you can look into different like credit cards that give you rewards points for grocery shopping, or travel points. That can make traveling a lot more affordable, right? You can look at restaurant cards. There's a few cards I know starting up for black-owned businesses, right? Where you shop at a black-owned business, you get cash back. There's cards just for business expenses. Like there's business credit cards that specifically like you give you rewards for a whole host of different things associated with the business. Just always keep track of your rewards points and stuff like that. That's number 1. Rule numero uno, that is so important. Number 2, always check your credit report every year. You get access to one free one per year. With no ding on your credit report. It's a soft inquiry. It's a soft inquiry. It doesn't hurt you at all. It's literally just so you can overview what your credit looks like and what the state of your credit health is every year. Definitely make sure you do that, and try to have like a set date you do it, right? For me, I do it every December 31st. Number 3, don't use more than you can afford. Right. If you only have $30 in your bank account, right, only use $30 in credit. Period. And in that, if you have expected expenses coming up that you already have money set aside for, pay for it with your credit card and then pay off your credit card. You know what I'm saying? Make your money work for you. It's the same thing that we always hear with those investment gurus, people who at least those who pretend to be, right, and talk about like earn money. Like scare money don't make money, you know what I'm saying? So right. you gotta be willing to use that credit card and use these other wealth building options, so that in the future your credit health can look a lot better. And say you might be living in an apartment now, 2 years down the road you might be able to, because you might have like a credit score of 800 or 850, hopefully, right. You might be able to get a house, with like 2% down. You might be able to find a loan that's just 2% down, and honestly find some really good interest rates that allow you to afford, say, like a $700,000 home. And that might and a lot of goals in our community revolve around being like landlords. A lot of people want to own their property. A lot of people want to either get back and rent to family members and other members of the community. To do that, you have to make sure your personal credit is A1. So that you can get cash flow from these properties, or cash flow from other ways. You're like leveraging your debt. The only way to really build positive cash flow that's substantial is by having those low interest rates. And the interest rate represents like the cost of borrowing. So if your cost of leveraging is low, then you can make more money. But those are the big 3.
The big three. I don't know if you got anything else.
As far as credit goes,
As far as credit goes,
nah. Unless there's any more questions.
nah, that was it for the credit stuff. As far as, I mean, something might pop up in my head, bro. You know, might pop up in my head.
Yeah.
But as far as going into the entrepreneurship goes, and I want to go a little deeper into your specific services that you guys offer, because I want people to know. I did do a poll right before we came out here, and at least 15 yeses on people that needs to work, that was interested in working on their credit, or interested in information that can help them work on their credit.
Absolutely.
So I want to get into your contact stuff, how people can reach out to you, and then maybe we can break down a little bit more on specific services that you can offer someone that might be looking to fix their credit, or might be looking to get an LLC, right? Or might be looking to figure out how they can get a loan, or their first time home buyer. Where can they get that information at?
Absolutely. So I have like a host of important links that I keep on hand, just for anybody starting up businesses or any other entrepreneurs I may meet across the way. It helps me strengthen relationships and make sure that I see like other black people in business winning. So if anybody is starting up a business or has any venture like that, I would not mind sharing information. I would actually love to. I encourage it. So reach out to me. Honestly, you can hit me up on Facebook, LinkedIn, Facebook and LinkedIn, really. Those are my two business platforms. Or you can go to my website, www.littleliberty.org. Or you could send me an email at contact@littleliberty.org. Contact spelled just like contact on your phone, at littleliberty.org. I keep my lines available and open to anybody that wants to come in and learn or work on their stuff. And
have you ever thought about doing maybe an in-person workshop for?
That's
maybe
in the works.
Yeah, or is it?
Yeah.
Oh, so I'm opening boxes and shit. We're gonna end the show, man. Thank y'all for watching. Live 3 Podcast, brought to you, of course, by Modern Party Art. And thank you for coming on, bro. Appreciate that. Little Liberty. Again, I'm gonna say it again, bro, because this is key information, bro. littleliberty.org, bro. Visit them.